What I said was there are two parts to do or die year. There's the do, okay, now or never. There's the now, and that's good. That means our kids have put themselves in a position where people think this is a year they can do something really, really great. Um, and then there's the never part. That's the outside world saying, well, if you can't win this year, you never will. But that's one of the fun things about high school football is a, a group comes in, they grow, they mature, they graduate, a new group comes in. And so I said the never part, we'll worry about that next year. We're going to, the do or die, the now or never. We're going to worry about the do and the now right now and see what we can do.
Bret Pearce, head coach at Milton-Union, is our guest, and they open up at National Trail. And then week 2, Valley View's always been a tough opponent for you, and you're going to get them early, and you get them on the road as well.
Yes, it's been a tough place to play for us the last couple of trips down there. We had to go down there twice a couple of years ago and got stomped both times. We got by them last year, a 4-point victory. I'm sure that's one they have not forgotten. And so I expect a really tough ball game in week 2 out of Valley View. And, it might not be the only one. We both dropped down to Division 5, Region 20 this year. And so this could be another year where we play Valley View twice.
How do you feel about that drop down to Division 5? We've got a lot of movement in our area. Coldwater moves up from 6 to 5. Marion moves up from 7 to 6. Marion has, I think, 3 state champions and a 4th team that finished runner-up in the state in its division. Right. Coldwater, as I mentioned, Coldwater, it is Versailles that moves down. They're in with Marion. So you guys, I would think, I would think you'd rather move down than move up. You guys, I thought, could have gone a long way last year had you gotten past Eaton. That was a very close football game, and you guys were right in that.
It was a good game. We think we're happy we moved down. That's where we were supposed to have been. The OHSAA has been sitting on the numbers for a couple of years. They were blaming COVID, but we had the numbers. We should have been Division 5 a few years ago. And that's frustrating when you feel like you have a good team and you're going against schools that in reality are much bigger than you. Mm-hmm. So when you ask, am I happy to go down Division 5? I think when you look at who's in Region 16 and you see, Clinton Massey and Alter and Wyoming, I'm not upset that we don't have to play them in the playoffs. Mm-hmm. But when you look at our region, I'm also not trying to give anybody else bulletin board material. Sure. I'm sure Valley View, Brookville, and Preble, Shawnee, and a bunch of the schools I don't know that are a little more south of us, the Cincinnati schools, I'm just not as aware of. So I'm sure we're going to have tough competition though.
Coach, one of the things that we've done in 13 years now with Press Pros is we have publicized teams and programs in other parts of the state that people didn't used to know about. For instance, I think we've popularized the MAC conference pretty much everywhere in Ohio from the fact that we're there every Friday night. But I wanted to take a minute and let you talk about the culture of football. And you're largely responsible for this, at least in the short term or in modern times. When you go back to people like Ed Lindinsky and Watt Farrar and some of the great coaches they've had there, your culture of football and your legacy and tradition in Milton is as good as any I can think of. And I know when we wrote that story the other day about Blake Broomball, we'll talk about him in a moment ago, there were people in Piqua kind of, I think, had puffed up and said, well, every year people talk about Milton. But look, when you talk about great traditions and great cultures of football, I don't think anyone in this area has better fans and a community of people who come out to Memorial Stadium or their Memorial Stadium on Friday night better than what you have. Tell people around the state, and there's a lot of people watching tonight, what it's like on Friday nights in West Milton.
Well, Milton is a great place to be a football fan. We have very knowledgeable fans, and I'm going to argue, Sonny, that I'm responsible. I think there are a lot of people in West Milton that grew up playing football for Watt Farrar and Ed Lindinsky and Steve Magato, And now those people are parents. And I think a great deal of our football tradition and everything comes from our families. I think we have strong parenting, people doing things right, raising their kids the right way. When the kids show up on my practice field, we can worry about football. We don't have to parent them. We don't have to worry about other life problems the kids are having because like I said, we have strong families. And a lot of the dads, like I said, they played for some football coaches that put me to shame. And so I think, you can't go home and just complain to dad and he tells you it's all right. You go home and complain and he'll tell you the stories about back when he had Coach Magato or something. And so we have a very strong tradition. We have great fans. They always turn out in large numbers. We have a great stadium. If you've never been to West Milton for a game, we have no track. So the fans are right on top of the field. It's a great place to watch a game. And hopefully this year we put on a good show a couple times.
Brett, I got to see I think it was your league championship game last year against Northridge, and your defense was just super dominant in that game. Don't think I've ever seen anybody have 4 interceptions in a game, but I saw it that night. Cooper Brown, if I recall. And, you caught a bad break in the postseason when Michael Elam, your leading rusher, was not able to play. Blake Newmeyer, tremendous running back and a great senior back last year, gave you everything he had, but it would have been nice to have that 1-2 punch. And now this year, do you have someone to go with Michael, or will Michael be the guy who's shouldering most of the load carrying the football?
Well, Michael will get a majority of the carries. Right now, Jordan Foose is playing the other back spot. And while he's not technically a returning starter, when I say we have 9 back on offense, I'm not counting Jordan. However, he started a few games for Michael Elam last year, and he started a few games for Blake Newmeyer last year. So, I could really say we have 10 returning starters on offense if I wanted to count Jordan. So that's going to be our 1-2 punch on the ground. And we have all of our leading receivers back, Broomball and Cooper Brown, and our tight end Connor Yates to go with Connor Gibson. And so we're really hoping to spread the ball around a little bit.
I want you to take a moment and tell people and give him credit where it's due to Blake Broomball for the fact that we wrote about him last week. And I said, and I really believe this, I think he's the most anonymous standout of any player that I saw last year. And I saw a lot of good football players in this area. I don't mean to leave anybody out or put him above anyone. But here's a guy that really does everything well. If you want him to run a jet sweep out of your wing tee, he can do it with 4.4, 4.5 speed. He is amazing for being able to get downfield, get open, and any ball within the zip code with him, he's going to catch. And besides that, he's the kind of kid that is Chamber of Commerce material. So take a moment and talk about really one of Ohio's anonymous standout kids that not enough people know about. And I'm really hoping after people read that article the other day that he gets more Division I looks or better looks to play at the next level than what he has so far.
Yeah, Blake is just a do-everything kid, a great athlete, a better person. But as far as the team goes athletically, we give him the ball running. We throw him the ball. He returns punts. He returns kickoffs. He was our punter last year. We snapped one over his head, and he ran it like 99 yards for a touchdown. He was second on the team in interceptions and third in popcorn sales. I mean, he does it all. But the best thing about him is really what I think is you won't find a more selfish superstar. I told a story to you, Sonny. He was wide open last year for a pass, and the quarterback threw it to another kid. And it was a gain. It was a 25-yard gain. If we'd have thrown it to Blake, it would have been a touchdown. And Blake was the first one to the other kid who caught it. It was our tight end, Connor Yates. Blake was celebrating. You could see him on film celebrating his friend's catch. You could see him run over and pick him up. And that's the kind of person he is, not just football player. And that's why I'm so big on this team is we've got a bunch of really good football players, but we've got a bunch of really fine young men.
People in West Milton will want to hear you talk about this. You are Bulldog football has such a great tradition of being physical, blue collar. Tyler Wilson, I got to mention Tyler because Joe may be listening someplace, but
Yeah.
I want you to talk about what you said the other day. Our identity is tackle to tackle, and those four young men that you outlined to me the other day, tackle guard, center guard, tackle. I guess that's five, but those young men are the bread and butter of Milton football year after year after year.
And they really are this year. And if you come watch a game, you might see speed out of someone like Blake Broomball or Michael Elam, and that might be what you notice. But our identity is our offensive and defensive line. We have seniors who just work hard. They go to the weight room on their own. I'm talking Ethan Lane, Jake Brown, Jesse Kurtz, Trevor Brazina, Colton Holgren. These kids they want to be good. They will watch film. They will, do all the scouting work they need to do. And they've worked in the off season. It's a coach's dream. They really are going to make the coaching staff look good because they do what they need to do. And teams will know. Fans who watch the ball, you might not understand, but opposing coaches, they are going to know, I think, that they have to deal with our linemen to start.
Hey, Bret, last year was the first year of the rebirth of the TRC, and you guys went undefeated. And I just kind of wonder, there was a lot of excitement about that league coming back and putting some of the old rivals together. When we asked you to comment on it last year in the preseason, it was, what you envisioned. But now that you've actually gone through a year and gone through it undefeated and won the league, does it fit you guys and the rest of the teams in the league fit each other as well as you envisioned that it would?
Oh, I really think so. A lot of these communities are like-minded communities. We're all very close together in proximity. It sure makes travel better. It means for bigger crowds, which is just a better atmosphere for the kids to play in. So we're incredibly happy with the league so far, and hopefully it just continues to improve.
Coach, you've been on the build end of football more than one time. When you first came to West Milton, I remember how you kind of manipulated that and helped that get the culture back into a positive direction. And certainly this is your fourth year back, I think, now from taking some time off. But there's a lot of programs in the area, and Covington is one of them. And we talked a little bit about this the other day, that are suffering in numbers, and what it takes to generate interest in football and impress upon kids the values and the attributes of participation and work and commitment, dedication, being a good teammate. And maybe, you do have, like we talked about the other day, the kids that you may have to put in a couple of years before it comes your time to stand up and be a little bit more mature and play and contribute. Can you talk a little bit about what it takes to bring a program back from the brink like that?
Well, I don't know if I can really say what it takes for every program. I just know what's worked here for us. And that is a couple different steps. The first one is I try to make it fun to be on the football team. I try to make it easy to be on the football team in January and February and March. I don't want to go in on day one all screaming and yelling and saying, you better do this or else. Because I think that's when you have kids trying to decide if they want to be a part of your program. Mm-hmm. So I'm really a nice guy in January, February, March. And then my strategy is kind of tighten the hold so that by the time the kids realize how hard they're working, they already have a lot invested in it. It makes it harder for them to quit. The other thing I hope we do a good job of is, we don't marginalize the JV team. The varsity is always there, cheering them on. A lot of kids will bounce back and forth from JV to varsity week to week. And I think that helps when you're talking about the kid who has to wait his turn to play. If he's a sophomore and not going to be varsity, hopefully he's having fun in the JV games, because we try not to treat them like second-class citizens.
Well, Bret, we certainly wish you well this year. The last question I have for you is, you obviously have the running game. You have that with your strength at your line on your offensive line. And I thought you were a really physical football team last year. I thought the one piece that you might have been missing was the ability to throw the ball down the field to loosen that defense up from them coming down and coming downhill at your running game. I know you return experience at the quarterback position. Talk about the guy under center and whether you feel like you guys are going to be a more capable passing team this year.
Nathan Mortar is a senior. He's started 15 games for us, and he's 13-2 in 15 games. So I am incredibly comfortable with Nathan. I think, Bruce, maybe the one game you saw, we did not have a great game passing-wise. I think we were better passing the ball throughout the season than the Eaton game. They certainly did a good job of defending us, and we had a couple of hiccups there. I feel great about Nate. He's one of the best leaders we've ever had. He's got a great head for the game. Doesn't make many mistakes. No, he was first team all league last year.
Wow.
And, was probably fourth or fifth in actual statistics. But I think the other coaches in the league recognized what he did. And so him and Miles Plattfoot from Riverside shared the first team honors last year.
Well, I apologize to him. The two I saw you, there was no hope of throwing the ball against Northridge because you guys might as well had flippers on that night, as wet as your field was. And then at Eaton, I was cold in the press box, so I know it was cold that night and hard to throw the football. So those two weather conditions probably didn't give him a chance to really throw the football much. But it's going to be an exciting year, I know, for Milton. I had the pleasure last year of being there and experiencing your home crowd, and a ton of pride in West Milton. And we certainly wish you well this year. It's always great to see you, and we're excited. I was going to pick Milton-Union as my surprise team this year, not because you're on the show, but because I got a glimpse at you last year, and I'd look down the list and I'd be like, wow, junior. That's a good sign.
Yeah.
I want to add this too, because we get a lot of compliments at Press Pros, and this starts right week one. There's so many people who like our coverage of area football, and they're very kind to say what they do about what we write and the graphics and everything like that. But I want to add that people, and Bret and I have known each other for a long, long time. We go back to his first tenure as coach at West Milton, and it's people like Bret who are open and always available and always kind to sit down and say, sure, come and let's sit down and talk, that make our coverage what it is, because it's a two-way street, and that cooperation certainly doesn't go unnoticed on our end. And I thank you for taking the time tonight, and always taking the time to answer the phone and talk to us after games and things like that. And ditto to what Bruce said. I wish you the best, and stay healthy, and have an exciting year. And we're looking forward again to being a part of that.
Thank you, guys, and thank you for what you do. I know my kids are always checking out Press Pros, and they know it's one of the few places anymore where they can get some recognition. So thank you.
All right, Coach.
Well, it's our pleasure. You got great kids. So thank you so much, Bret, and we look forward to seeing you this season after games and during games.
Okay.
There you go.
Coach, good night.
Head coach at Milton-Union, and he is further proof that we are really fortunate to have a lot of great coaches and cooperative coaches with outstanding young men to coach, and that doesn't happen without good parenting. So really,
one more thing about Bret too, and you know this, we've joked with him for years. He is a very slick and accomplished sleight of hand magician.
He is. You were disappointed tonight. He didn't come with a magic trick.
He didn't have the floating Coke can pouring into a glass tonight or something like that. Tim Antonides, who's one of his assistant coaches the other day, told me, he said, last year, the first time, sometime in the past, was walking across the football field, I think he said, with a briefcase. Now, you know how thin a briefcase is. Just literally a men's business briefcase. And he picked up a football and stuck it in that briefcase and closed it and just walked off with it. He said, I still don't know how he did that. So he's a fun guy. He's got a great personality, and he can literally pull a rabbit out of the hat, and has done it a lot of times on Friday night.
Well, we will be, of course, all over games in Western and Central Ohio this year for Press Pros Magazine. We have many of the same team members back for this season, and we're looking forward to that. We added our OCC football coverage last year, and we had a lot of fun covering great teams from Marysville and Upper Arlington. Probably had them on New Albany, had a lot of success last season. And this year, let's talk about the opening week schedule, Sonny, and where we might be looking to send our Western Ohio staff and our Central Ohio staff. We've got St. Henry opens up at Covington. You talked about the challenge that the Buccaneers have, getting the numbers up to where I know they were back in the heyday. Lima Bath is at New Bremen. Minster is at Fort Loramie. Wayne Trace is at Fort Recovery. Versailles is at Salina. Wapakoneta is at Marion Local. That's a return game from last season, is it not?
That's one of a number of return games, because you just mentioned Salina and the Versailles. They played each other in the opener for years. But the Wapakoneta game, I think, will be a marquee game. That's one of our opening night games. Last year was more wide open than I think that people expected it to be, and Marion went in there, a Division VI, and beat a Division III. The score says they beat them handily, but it was a very physical game. Marion hit on 2 or 3 big plays, as they are wont to do, and then kind of stretched the thing out to a 3-touchdown deficit at the end. But I think that's going to be one of the better games on opening night in Western Ohio, because, again, you got Division VI against Division III. Wapakoneta is a very proud tradition. They're on the road this year with that game, and I'll guarantee you that they were stung last year. They didn't take that lightly. Even though that's a 12-time state champion you lose to, still, when you're a Division III team, you're supposed to beat Division VIs. And that's going to be a highly motivated group of Redskins that come in from up there in All-Glaze County to play this year when they come down to Mercer. So I think that'll be one of our marquee games. I know you've got a couple others there that I'll let you comment on. And I just think that week one is such a crapshoot across the state, because it's literally nothing more than a better glorified scrimmage, because it's very hard to put a high school football program and get it clicking and get to work on just 2 weeks.
Well, I'm interested to see Versailles in week one. They go on the road at Salina, and Versailles, obviously, you're defending Division V state champions. They knocked off Kirtland last year, ended Kirtland's long winning streak. And Ryan Jones, I mean, look, he lost a ton of great players. He lost Carson Bay, and he lost Jack Osborne, and Taryn Pio, and I mean, I could on and on and on and on. And I think they ran a play. I can't remember who they were playing in their final home game last season, but they had the game well in hand. It was a home playoff game, second week. And on the final snap, Ryan Jones sent his seniors out to line out on offense. And I think he had 18 guys out there lined up on offense. So, how sometimes I've seen it in college where a player will die and they'll send 10 guys out and take the penalty and tribute to the missing player. Versailles sent them all out there. So they lost a lot of guys. And what will they look like with, Ryan's built a good program. Was he year 3 last year?
Yes.
And now he comes back, but new guys in new positions. Michael Osborne looks like he's going to be the quarterback. They'll have Connor Stonebreaker back. I assume he's out for football, although he's got a great future ahead of him in basketball. We thought Connor might be the quarterback. If he's out, he's probably going to be the tight end. I don't know if he's even out for football. We'll get to Versailles in the next 2 weeks, of course, to preview their season before they start. So I'm curious to see Versailles. I'm very interested to see, of course, Marion Local. We've long since gotten past the point where we think Marion Local might struggle to replace talents like Peyton Oddie and Brady Ronnebaum, because they just do it all the time. And Tate Hess is the guy who's going to take Peyton Oddie's spot at the quarterback position. So those will be interesting games. I'm anxious to see what Chris Schmidt has at New Bremen this year. And then in Central Ohio, our first week, Pick Central. Who's the best team in Pickerington? Is it Pick Central or is it Pick North? It's typically been Pick North, but boy, they lost a lot of guys last year, but they've always typically been able to kind of rebuild rather than replace rather than rebuild. Olentangy Liberty's at Pick Central. Hilliard Bradley is at Olentangy Berlin. Hilliard Darby is at Olentangy Orange. Upper Arlington is at Reynoldsburg. That, I think, will be one of the games that we cover. And New Albany is at Marysville in week 1. Marysville obviously will not have Gabe Powers, but they still have Colton Powers. And I think our plan is to cover Marysville and New Albany in week 1. Bubba Kidwell and New Albany had a really good year last year. And New Albany has been just outstanding in sports across the board. Their girls golf team won the state. Dave Starling, his baseball team won the state 2 years ago. New Albany is really building a powerhouse over there across the board in their athletics. So I think that'll be our 2 Central Ohio games for sure. And we may add a third, will be UA at Reynoldsburg and New Albany at Marysville.
I think before we get too far away and into the season about division or the schedule on week 1 and 2, we need to talk about some other teams here in Miami County besides Milton-Union, because I know there's people watching from Piqua tonight that say, hey, wait a minute. We lost in regionals last year to the eventual state champion, and we got a lot of firepower back with Bill Nees this year, and they're going to be very, very good. And I alluded to that a few moments ago when I talked to Bret about teams of anticipation or expectation locally here this year. Piqua is not going to lose much. Their feature running back is playing at Youngstown State this year, and the one they had a couple of years ago went on to Dayton. Deron Coleman is down there, but they've got Brady Ulbeck as their quarterback. And I think, particularly in high school football, you can't underestimate the value of having a 3-year starter back at quarterback, especially when you have skill players around him like they have. Bill always has good talent, tackle to tackle. They always play hard on defense. So, and they're going to be well coached. So they're going to be very good. Another team that I think that people are going to be interested in following this year will be Matt Burbacher and his 3rd year at Tip City. Believe it or not, when he took that program over, they had about 50, 55 kids out for football. They now dress 100 in their 4 freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior classes. He's got kids everywhere down there. I don't know where they get that many helmets, but he's got a lot of kids out for football. It's a very highly energized culture, and they were very good. They lost their running back, Everhart, last year, but they've got Liam Peronsky back, their quarterback, who's, again, a 3-year starter, a lot of experience, and you're very well coached. Between he and Charlie, they have those kids very well prepared to play. And, of course, they're in the same league with Piqua in the same division, with Piqua and up and down with Butler and Troy. So that's going to be another program that warrants people to pay attention to this year. But there's so many of them around. You mentioned New Bremen out of the MAC. I'll mention, go back and talk about Butler. It's Ty Cates' 2nd year as head coach, and I know they were 4-6 last year, or nearly 500. But I know they're highly optimistic. Again, a program that has got a lot more kids in it now, 80, 85 kids suited up to play football. So the culture there is good. And he and I talked 3 or 4 weeks ago, and he talked about talent and speed and just the enthusiasm kids have for that, not to mention the great tradition of football at Butler High School when Pell was coach there and Steve Pelfrey, and they had everything going for them big time back then. So there are a lot of programs. And you go a little bit east, Mechanicsburg's been good for years. Kirk Forrest's program there. You saw them last year. I think their numbers are a little bit down, but numbers don't seem to matter over there. You look at other teams in the Three Rivers Conference. Bret Pearce was just telling me the other day he expects Bethel to be a tough out this year, that they've got a lot of kids back in experience. And Riverside, we saw a lot of those kids as underclassmen last year that are going to come back and be competitive. I have seen Northridge a couple of times in practice down in North Dayton. Nobody has more athletes on the field than Bob Smith has. So there's another Division 4 or 5 team that is going to be competitive on any given night. These are just some of the ones that are a little bit off the radar, not to mention, those teams like Marion. And we talk about Coldwater, and we talk about Versailles and teams out of the MAC that everybody expects to be good every year.
Yeah, I think for Piqua last year, it was a year where they had everything they needed to win a state championship. They just had the misfortune of being in the same regional as Winton Woods. And Winton Woods was one of those teams that nobody was really talking about. And then when you saw the size of their line and couple that with that little jet in the backfield, Tyreek Spikes, 5'4", 150 pounds. I mean, the young man rushed for over 1,000 yards in the postseason and led them to a state championship. So Pickwood played them as tough as anybody did. And Bill Neese had a very nice team last year, and he's built a great program. I have no doubt that Pickwood will be really, really solid once again. So we're fortunate. We get to cover a lot of great teams. And, looking ahead, you were talking about the opener with Wapak and Marion Local, and that's a big game for Marion Local because if they can get it playing up a couple of divisions, you get the computer points that sort of vault you into a position where you're going to be in great shape in your region. Coldwater has that situation in week 2 when they play. Well, they really have it in week 1. They play at Kenton, but Kenton last year was 0-10, so they got no points out of Kenton. And I don't think they got any points out of Bell Fountain in week 2 either. But Bell Fountain this year is supposed to be a lot better, and they have a quarterback, Tavian St. Clair, who's been offered by Tennessee and by Central Michigan. So to get an offer as a quarterback from an SEC school, that's a very talented young man. And Bell Fountain pulled a big upset last year in the state playoffs. So I know that Chip Otten and his guys are looking forward to starting strong with wins over Kenton and Bell Fountain on the road, both games. And Coldwater's another team that reached the state finals last year and has a new quarterback this year. Marcel Blassingame will be Coldwater's quarterback. And, of course, his brother Miles led him to a state championship in one of the best high school games I've ever seen 2 years ago against New Middletown Springfield and Bo Brungard. Thrilling down to the wire, Zach McKibben punt return, field goal on the final play. That was an awesome game. But that'll be interesting in week 2 to see Coldwater go to Bell Fountain and see how their defense coped with obviously a very, very outstanding player in Tavian St. Clair.
I have no idea about how Sydney is going to finish up in record this year. But having seen them a couple of times last year, I can tell you they have the athletes. Adam Dunges has the athletes up there to hurt some people on Friday nights. Now, whether they can pull all that together, because you got to play with 11 and as 11. And, their line play, their defense, and some of the issues that they had, I think, last year of just tightening things up and playing on a consistent basis. If they can bring all that together with some of the athletes they have, the Sydney Yellow Jackets will be an interesting read this year as well. So there's no shortage of teams like there is on any given year to get excited about. And I just think that we're, like we always say, and we sat here last year and talked about the same thing, about being blessed to have 6 or 7 or 8 teams. And you just heard from the coach of one of them tonight, really advantage to them to drop down to Division 5 this year. Now, I hate to put the do or die plague on anybody, but again, this year they missed Clinton Massey. They missed the Alters. They missed those teams that traditionally you just can't get by. If you're out of Miami County and West Milton and you're playing in a conference that probably doesn't prepare you to play. We saw Clinton Massey last year in the state tournament, and tackle to tackle, how good they were on their interior lines. And so, they get a big break this year, I think, in going to Division 5. I don't mean to say anything about any other one in their region, but it's really this is a great year for them to step up and assert themselves and make that push, maybe to get to Canton and beyond.
Well, Marion Local is the team that I think everybody would pick to get there if they had to make a pick. And for Marion Local to win, will it be number 13?
Yeah, this would be 13. They 13. Are more now of Ohio high school football programs, in that they have the record of all-time titles at 12. They surpassed Ignatius. We had some people that wrote in about the article we wrote last week about Tim Goodwin and said, they've got 12, but they didn't get 12 against the people that Ignatius had to play. Well, that might be true, but it's all proportional and all relative. And nobody plays, as you said in that article, that nobody plays a tougher schedule than what Marion does. And if you look at what their anticipated schedule would be this year, it would include former state champion Coldwater, the the present state champion in Division 5 from last year. They play Versailles in the middle of the year. They play Macomb on week 2, which is a former state champion. They've got, if you get to the playoffs, they've got teams like Cary, who's the reigning Division 6 state champion, standing in the way. There's Kirkland out there that has beaten Marion twice in the state finals, and now in Division 6 as well. So nobody earns it over the last 21, 22 years more than what Marion Local has.
Yeah, that's my point, is that, it's fine when you're a parochial school to talk about what a tough schedule you play because all the other schools are your size. It's quite another thing to take the kids that grow up in your community and you can't recruit across your diocese or pull kids from other areas. You absolutely positively play the hand you're dealt. And you can say, well, they have great players. Well, they have great players because kids grow up in Maria Stein aspiring to play for Tim Goodwin, because now, as he said in the profile that you did on him about a week ago, he's now starting to coach the sons of guys that he coached when he first got there. So he has built an amazing program, and he has won state championships with different styles, even last year when they pulled away from Newark Catholic. Newark Catholic was going to take away the run. Okay, fine, we're going to throw the football, and throw the football they did. So I'm very eager to watch Marion this year to see what they do well and to see how they play in what is an absolutely packed Division 6 with 3 state champions and a state runner-up from last year. That's Cary, Versailles, Marion Local, all state champions, and Coldwater, a state runner-up. So that is absolutely loaded. All right, Sonny, we ran the Reader Speaks today with some comments. We have some comments online tonight. You can always leave us a comment or a question on our Twitter, Facebook page. Make sure you're following us on Instagram as well. Randy has a question, and I saw this, Randy, while Coach Pearce was on, but I didn't want to put him in the ticklish position of having to answer it because I don't want to put him in a bad spot with his parents. But Randy wants to know, Sonny, has coaching gotten harder due to interference from parents? I don't know that there would be a coach anywhere who would say no to that, because now every kid's got a recruiting profile and they're trying to get, honors, and they're trying to get money to play at the next level, and they've got a brand, and heaven forbid we ever get NIL in high school football. I'm so glad that got voted down last year by about 70-30. And the day that we get NIL in high school football will be a day the sport changes forever, and it will not change for the better.
So you're asking me if parents make it tougher to coach?
Yes.
Well, there's no question about that, and I think for no better reason. And I know a lot of people would disagree with this if they're a parent and they've got a kid that plays, but I know myself, yourself, because you've had daughters that play, how easy it is to live vicariously through your kids' participation in competition. You look out there, and that's an offshoot of you out there playing, and they carry some of your characteristics of competition and participation and instinct and winning and being all that. And I just think it's awfully hard sometimes for parents to look out there and see the glass half empty, not just half full. It's not, we live now in a culture of participation where a lot of people believe if you get up in the morning and get out of bed and go to practice and put the uniform on and stand on the sideline, that's worthy of lettering for the year. But the other part of that is that there's so much more, to understand about what coaches see and their whole ability to put 11 kids in the case of football together that can work together, that respect each other. That's a big thing that a lot of parents overlook. Those 11 guys out there, they know who can play. They know who they can depend on. And that's a big, big element of competition and participation that is overlooked sometimes. So, yeah, I think it is a tough thing on coaches sometimes. I know guys that have a sign on their door. You're welcome to come in and talk to me, but not about playing time. If you're coming to me to talk to me as a coach about your kid or something about I can help him with or help him grow or help him mature, grow up a little bit, that's fine. Don't come and tell me that you think he ought to be playing ahead of Billy Bob, because I'll make that decision, and I'll make it all for the right reasons for the team.
So that'll just about do it for this first season edition of the Huddle Show. We're glad you joined us. You can catch the replay on Facebook. Tell your friends about it, particularly those of you in West Milton who'd be interested in seeing our interview with head coach Bret Pearce, who started us off at the top of the show. We want to thank him for his time. We hope that you'll read the site, because I believe we have a story coming on the soon-to-be second year of former Minster coach Garen Stokes at Dublin Kaufman High School in the OCC. And I don't know what you got cooking over in Western Ohio. Sonny, anything you like to promo?
Well, I'm going to give a shout out to the 14th annual PBA BowlerStore.com Classic that's coming this weekend, August 12th, 13th, and 14th. 100 of the PBA's best Professional Bowler Association's best talents will be at Playmore Lanes this coming weekend. It's a wonderful event. I have a lot of fun going because I watch those guys on ESPN and on television, and you always wonder about guys that are that good, like guys on the PGA Tour. What would it be like to talk to Tiger or Phil Mickelson? I don't know. I've never talked to him, but I have talked to Kyle Troop, and I've talked to EJ Tackett, and I've talked to the best players on the PBA Tour, and the regular people. They're wonderful personalities, and I always look forward to getting. That's this weekend at Playmore. Now, as a warm up to that, 9, 10, and 11, and that's tomorrow, Wednesday, and Thursday. Those same guys will be at Community Lanes for a regional tournament at Community Lanes up in Minster. And you can go up and get an additional fix of the Pro Bowlers Tour there as well. And again, that is sponsored by the roofing company over in Versailles, and a sponsor of ours, in fact. So you can get a good bowler's fix there. Kramer Roofing. You can get a good bowler's fix on the PBA guys this weekend, and that's always a lot of fun. And I would, if you want, it's free. I mean, just go and walk in and enjoy it and meet some of these guys and marvel at the skill that they have. I always thought bowling was a lot of luck and a little bit of skill. Well, it's a lot of skill and a little bit of luck. So that's on the docket for this weekend, and highly worth your going to see.
Very good. And when we're back next week, we'll be talking about high school football starting in 4 days.
4 days.
We look forward to that. Check out the newly redesigned site at PressProsMagazine.com. Check out the lowdown videos sponsored by our friends at Layman's Hardware and Old Time General Store. Shoot us an email, PressProsContest@gmail.com, for your chance to win a $50 Layman's gift card, and you get 10% off at Layman's when you order and use the promo code PressPros10. Go to Laymans.com, LEHMANS.com. You'll find a gift for the hardest to buy for person on your list, and great people at Layman's, and we're proud to partner with them as we build toward the state championships in Canton for year 2 at Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium. If you're headed up there to watch the games, build in a little extra time and detour 4 miles south off Route 30 on Kidron Road and hit Layman's Old Time Hardware Store. But you better budget. How long would you say, Sonny? At least 2 hours for a representative visit to Layman's Hardware and Old Time General Store?
I'll tell you what, it goes fast when you're in there too, because you look up and you say, I can't believe I've been here this long. That's the good part of it. It's worth the trip up there. It's gorgeous country, of course. It's Amish country, and you'll enjoy that part of it. The scenery is worth the trip. But Layman's is a place you'll long remember once you get there. I know
it is a one of a kind store. There's none other like it. And those of you who've been understand, and hopefully those of you who haven't been will be intrigued enough to stop by, because you will not be sorry that you did.
You know, we better also add too that a lot of people last year said, what night are you going to be on? What time are you going to be on? We've got that nailed down a little bit this year. We're kind of committed to the 8 o'clock hour on Monday night.
Yeah.
Bruce doesn't have a soccer player, playing as a senior this year. So we have a little bit more of a commitment to the 8 o'clock hour on Monday night. So that'll make it easier for us to schedule and get people and some interesting guests on here that you'll enjoy as well. So we look forward, and if you enjoy the show, certainly share it with friends and people that would enjoy it as well, and let them know to put that on their calendar for Monday nights at 8 o'clock.
And when you're out and about and you happen to be in a store or in a business that advertises on Press Pros, make sure that you indicate your appreciation for that, because without their support, we could not do what we do. And we certainly appreciate all the feedback we get on what we do. You're very loyal, our readers are. And so we're appreciative of that. So reciprocate in kind to those people who help support the coverage of high school sports and college sports here on PressProsMagazine.com. With that, we will bid you a fond adieu on Monday night. We'll see you next week for week number 2 of the PressProsMagazine.com Huddle Show. Have a good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.